Thank you to all my channel members, including my fan appreciation level members and my contributor level members, for helping support the YouTube channel. Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I have my book review of the book Star Trek Gateways, The Next Generation, book number 3. This is Doors into Chaos. Yes, this is part of the Gateway Saga. That's a crossover event. We had the first Gateways book that I read a few months ago, One Small Step by Susan Wright, and this book was such a slog. It was just boring. And then I read last month Chainmail, the second book, which is part of the Challenger storyline, and this book was such a slog and so boring. So after 2 misfires with the series and no real understanding of where the series was going, I was very much not looking forward to this book. And so I was hesitant. I was like, you know what? I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to read it because I'm doing it for Literary Treks, and I read the books all the way through. And from like the first 2 chapters, I knew I was going to love this book. And absolutely I did, because this is a fantastic, phenomenal book. I even posted on Twitter, I said, Robert Greenberger, I'm sorry, I owe an apology. I was not familiar with your game because, oh boy, this is a great book. So this book starts out, and gateways are popping up everywhere, and it's messing up people's lives. The Grand Nagus gets attacked because of one gateway, and these people working for this kind of excavation crew has a gateway pop up and stuff, and so battles are starting to happen, and so the Federation, which is still licking its wounds from the Dominion War, is like, we do not need this. This is a problem. And then the Iconians show up and say, hey, this is our gateway. What do you think of it? Do you guys want the power of the gateways and control of the gateways? And of course, everybody kind of wants it, because if you have power to the gateways, look how awesome you would become. And everybody, including the Federation, doesn't want anyone else getting it, because they know if anybody else gets the gateways, they could like destroy planets and destroy stuff and cause huge wars, and it would be awful, just absolutely awful. And so Captain Picard is ordered back to Starfleet, where he's given a mission. Go around, collect diplomats, and they're going to go and negotiate with the Iconians, and basically negotiate that if the Federation, basically what they're going to say is, the argument that they use is nobody should have it. And as a result, he goes and gets the Klingons, and he goes and he tries to get the Tholians, and he tries to get, all these other groups, the Gorn even. And so they're all brought into the fold, and all of them are trying to work together to negotiate with the Iconians. And I thought this was a great storyline. Picard is off on one end, negotiating with some people, getting some diplomats and ships together. He also wants some ships to show the Iconians, hey, we got teeth. But then he also has Troy go off on another ship, and she's kind of leading the negotiations on another ship, which I really enjoyed. And then you had, back on the Enterprise itself, Will Riker is in charge, and he's trying to stop these 2 groups, the Deltans and the Carians, who are fighting each other over a gateway, and he tries to go and, slide in between and be like, hey guys, why don't we not fight, and why don't we lay down our weapons? And then they're like, no, we hate you. That was a great storyline. That was so fun. It's not that long, but it was a fun part of the book, and it just made me laugh out loud. Oh, that was such a fun part of the book. This whole book is just like a return to form for Star Trek. It's that political action thriller storyline that Star Trek does so well, and I just absolutely loved it. And by about the middle of the book, all the storylines converge together, they meet the Iconians, all heck breaks loose, and battles ensue as you would expect. And then at the end of the book, some resolution happens, and then a cliffhanger like the whole series happens. And I loved it, the whole thing. The middle of the book, the action sequences were so good. It reminded me of the action sequences in The Best of Both Worlds. It reminded me of the action sequences in First Contact and the action sequences in The Last Generation. Now, all 3 of those have in common is the Borg. And there's no Borg here. I want to use that comparison, but say don't assume that the Borg or anything are showing up. I'm just saying, think of the scope of those action sequences, how cool the space battles are in all those episodes and movie. That's what it was like here, and I just absolutely loved it. Particularly, chapter 7 in this book is that big action sequence. It's like 58 pages long, so it's basically like 20% of the book is just one chapter. And oh boy, that is an epic chapter. I really enjoyed it. But then you've got, of course, the last third of the book, which is the kind of figuring out stuff and negotiating and all that stuff, which is really good. But the book just, from beginning to end, I just really, really enjoyed this book. It's a quick read, it doesn't take too long to read, but I mean, it's just so good. It's such a return to form, as I mentioned. It feels like those political thrillers, and the book actually has a little bit of meat to it because the whole storyline of them banding together and basically saying, we could use these gateways, but we recognize the power that these gateways pose is so bad that we'd actually rather just see nobody have them. And it reminded me of the discussion around nuclear proliferation and the idea of countries basically saying, look, it would be great for us to have nuclear weapons because we would feel more safe. But we are so afraid of our enemies getting nuclear weapons that we would rather stop everybody from having them than allow one of our enemies to get it instead, as well as us. And so there's just such great themes kind of imbued into the story where the gateways are this like powerful weapon, not just because the gateways themselves are kind of innocuous. It's a gateway. It's a way to travel from one place to another. But the threat they pose, not only of moving ships, moving troops, moving fleets, but also the threat that if a gateway, gets too much power, how does it recharge? It could recharge using a planet's energy. All that stuff. I thought it was great. The briefing room scene at the beginning of the book, oh, so good. And it finally connects to the other books. There's not really connections to Chainmail as much, but there's some connections to One Small Step. And I was like, yes, finally, connections are happening. Not as many as I wanted, but connections are finally happening. And I can see the overarching building of this story. And this story does connect to Voyager in a way I was not expecting, and does connect in a few ways to into DS9, and the next book in the series, book 4, is Demons of Air and Darkness. That's that's the DS9 book, and so I have a feeling that they're going to be connected. Robert Greenberger, who wrote this book, actually is one of the co-creators of the Gateways series. I think I would view it as like they're kind of like the architects. They came up with, he and John Ordover, the editor, came up with the idea, and then each author got their individual book. But Greenberger obviously left the story that he thought would be the best for himself. And so far, 3 books in, this is the best book by a long shot. I mean, if the rest of the books are this good, oh my goodness, that could be amazing. But I don't know if they will be. But I mean, this book just worked so well. And it just, I know I'm going on gushing about it, but after so many mediocre Star Trek books over the course of the last year, there were some good ones. I haven't had this feeling of this is a great Star Trek book in like over a year. I think it was last December was the last, when I say last December, I mean December 2023 was the last great Star Trek books I read, which was the 2 Gorkin books that I loved. Since then, we've had good books. We've had pretty good books. I've read bad books, some pretty bad books. I haven't had any great, awesome, amazing books. And so I was getting kind of demoralized reading Star Trek. And this just jump-started me, got me so excited. And so I'm so happy to have Doors into Chaos as a 9 out of 10. Just a terrific, fantastic, amazing book. Loved it. Could have had more. That's actually my biggest criticism. I could have had more, and maybe I'll get that more in book 4. Maybe I'll have to wait till book 7. But I'm so excited to read more Gateways books because this was so good. So if you've read Doors into Chaos, let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below. And until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.